And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. Let me know in the chat if you guys could hear me fine, if the volume's good. But in today's video, I just kind of wanted to first say, listen, sorry I haven't been making a lot of videos lately. I've been super busy. It gets crazy with a baby. Uh, you would think like you could do simple time management, but next thing you know, just time starts going by, and you're like, all right, I'll get to do a video tonight. And next thing you know, it's 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. You're like, well, now I'm just gonna go to bed. So yeah, it gets pretty crazy. But in today's video, I just wanted to talk about like Pokemon price burnout. And I know what you guys are thinking. Like, there's the normal thought process of what is Pokemon price burnout? Well, a lot of people have that thought process in their head that, oh, well, people just went way too hard on modern product, and now, they're looking at their bank accounts and looking at their credit cards and all this stuff, and they're just like, yeah, I can't keep up with buy modern. No, I think that is a very good argument, but that's not really what I'm talking about right now. Is now I think the price burnout could potentially be where now you had a lot of people just sitting back and waiting, saying, I'm going to wait for the market to drop. There's a lot of cards that I did want that maybe I just didn't pull the trigger when the prices were low. But now that we're starting to see all the prices retrace a little bit, now I think this is where we're going to start to see some of that price burnout, because now people are going to be able to actually acquire a lot of the cards that really they missed, or they sat back and they said they're going to wait for the prices to drop. Or, as I've talked about in the past, is a lot of people were just waiting to buy like booster boxes of whether or not it was Chill and Rain or Evolving Skies or some of these other sets that, we saw like pretty high price spikes at the very beginning. Like Chill and Rain booster boxes, if you're pretty savvy and you look around, you could get them for between 100 and 105 bucks. I mean, yeah, who knows where the bottom is at for a product like that. It could be like 85. It could be maybe very similar to a Battle Styles, but this is going to be the price like that a lot of product is moving to. So we'll see a lot of people just get burnt out now acquiring everything. And I think the big one that I'm already starting to see myself be burned out a little bit is I was looking at the market for a pretty long time. When I say the market, mainly I'm just talking about eBay, right? Because I'm guessing for you guys, that's where probably you get most of your raw cards, especially when it comes to vintage. And there was a lot of vintage cards that, yeah, once in a while you get lucky, you pick up a good auction here or there, and you could pick up a good price. But now I'm starting to see a decent amount of good prices. And, you know, I'm really big into just trying to pick up cards at, really near mint. So I am very picky when it comes to picking up raw cards, but in the past I've been very lucky with having a lot of success, picking up raw cards, grading them, getting PSA 9, PSA 10s. It is hard. It's not easy, but it's not as hard as maybe you think, as long as you're patient. But now I'm really starting to see a lot of cards in near mint condition go on the market raw. So I've been picking them up. But the problem is right now with that price fatigue that I'm talking about is PSA is closed. So there really is no good option to send these cards away. So now I'm acquiring them, and they're kind of just sitting there stagnant. And I think that there's actually a pretty large majority of people in the hobby right now literally sitting on a huge supply of cards, and they're waiting for PSA to really open up. Now, this brings up that whole question of, is PSA ever going to open up and start accepting cards at those lower tiers? And your guess is as good as mine. I mean, the real early, press releases, they said, they talked about July 1st, and then they didn't really open up anything. Yeah, we're at the $150 tier, but when you look at Pokemon and a lot of like the vintage stuff, there's a lot of vintage cards that are, raw. You could pick up between, call it $30 to $100, and the graded prices for those cards, at PSA 8, well, maybe not PSA 8, but PSA 9, PSA 10s, you can be looking at $400 to $500 for a pretty decent majority of like the mid-tier vintage stuff. So to try to send those cards away at $150 grading tiers. If you're paying $30, $40, $50 for them raw, you could be talking $200. And there's always that uncertainty because, as you know, more than probably most people out there, the price difference between a PSA 9 and a PSA 10 is very drastic. So if you are banking on these higher grades, there's a lot of risk that comes with trying to grade cards at a much higher cost. So I think this is the price fatigue that a lot of people are going to start running into. And I know I'm starting to run into it a little bit. And it's also like this really weird thing too, because while it is price fatigue, when you think about it, Pokemon is like very polarizing in a way that everything is extremely subjective. What do you think is expensive versus what do you think is cheap? And yeah, it's pretty easy to liquidate some of your higher end cards and you can quickly free up a lot of money. And, that's why my argument was always like anti a lot of people's arguments for modern, where a lot of people said, well, ton of people are going to go out, they're going to buy a ton of modern prices are really going to crash and all this stuff. And while I think there's a lot of merit to that, and we've talked about on this channel before, I'm also like an extremely strong believer of how cheap modern is. What I'm really describing is more of that mid-tier, higher tier type cards, and it really depends how you define that mid-tier to high tiers, because yeah, for some people out there to hear a 400 or 500 card, if they are only in modern and they don't really look at any mid-tier vintage or real vintage cards, to hear a $400 or $500 price point, they could say, well, $400 or $500 is literally the most expensive card in a modern set. But when it comes to vintage, you could look at even the non big chase cards, right? Like you take Skyridge, right? Skyridge sure has Crystal Charizard and Crystal Celebi and Crystal Golem and all these cards, right? Or Crystal Kabutops, stuff like this. But you have a lot of these hollows in it that at PSA 10 prices still are way above that $400 or $500. You have like the Umbreon and the Articuno and some of the more higher end hollows in that set. They still fetch a extremely big premium. You could be talking $800, $900, $1,000 for some of these cards at real high grades. But when you talk about vintage cards and you talk about when you go down in grades, the prices get slashed so quickly. And people have talked about this in the past, and there's tons of merit to it. In the past, it never made sense to send away the mid-tier grade, your sevens, your eights. Yeah, when you had a card that was a 9 and you thought maybe it was a strong 9 and it could hit a 10, yeah, it was worth it to send those cards. But we can potentially start going back to that point where it's not really worth it to send a lot of cards that are not at those real high grades. And the reason why I say it's not going to be worth it is because the community, or not the community, the collector base is moving slowly back to what it was. And that's the thing. When you talk about moving back towards what it was, it goes back to more the collector base that is not just throwing their money, willy-nilly out the window. And they do believe that they want stronger grades and they do want those stronger sets, stronger master sets. So it is a very strong likelihood that we start to see, like the collectors move back to how it used to be. And me personally, like, I welcome that. There is a part of me that wishes that it would still stay with the easy grades or that easy money, or the, people say free tendies and stuff like that, because when you think about it, think about how many of those mid-tier grades you might have had, and you might not have, opened up those cards yourselves. You bought big bulk lots in the past, and it had a couple of these, like, yeah, these cards were still near mint, but they had very obvious whitening issues, maybe a couple centering issues, edges issues, nothing that, for eye appeal just throws it down the toilet. We're not talking about 4 or 5s or 6s. We're talking cards that still look nice, but they were never worth it to be sending. So yeah, you sat on them, but then you had a ton of cards that you are now able to free up. And I think that's where a lot of people that were really successful in 2020, 2021, I don't think it was really so much that they sold large portions of their personal collections. I think what it was they sold a lot of their doubles, a lot of their triplicates, cards that they were sitting on that had a ton of value, but they already had higher grades of that card. And people like that really did super well, especially in this market. So that's kind of what I want to talk about there for like just price fatigue. And I want to know, are you guys on eBay right now, like just searching through eBay, finding some really good deals, and you're like, oh man, because it's really easy on eBay, just $25 here, $25 there, and the next thing you know, you're just like, whoa, that escalated pretty quickly. And sure, I guess you could, if you find really good deals, there's always the ability to like sell those cards raw and stuff, but that's for different types of people, different types of buyers. Sure, you can look at some of these cards, and if you really think that if there's only a very short window and they're not maybe a little bit more of a long-term investment, you can send them to CGC and some of the other grading companies. But we've talked about it already in other videos, and I think other content creators and just other people in the hobby are starting to talk about it a little more, that could not call it foolish grading, but that rush to grading, that rush to have your cards slabbed, we will quickly start to see that market really take a hit. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but there is definitely going to be a lot of cards in the very near term that are going to definitely be worth it to buy cards at very high near mint condition from different grading card companies, crack them and resubmit them to PSA when they open. But I mean, you can make 100 videos talking about when is PSA going to open every day, talking about the cards you're buying, talking about all the opportunity. And you can really arguably, have a conversation and say that PSA may realistically never open up low tiers ever again. And when I say low tiers, it's subjective, right? Like, will we as a community, as a Pokemon community, will we ever see PSA really open up those $10 grading tiers again? Maybe, but you look at what their backlog is, and you look at every time that they open one of these lower tiers. I can't tell you with like all certainty, 'cause I don't work at PSA, but I can more or less guarantee you that every $50 price decrease they do, they open up just a huge flood of cards that hits them like from 200 to that 150. I bet you when they went to 150, there was a huge flood. And when they continue to pull back, open those doors a little bit, 150 to the 100 to the 75 to the 50. And then if they ever do go to like a $25 tier, or if, I mean, just because we're having a conversation and we're having like a little bit of a debate. Think if right now our PSA was just like, listen, we're going to open up $10 grading tiers right now today. The flood of cards they would get from not just Pokemon, but sports cards and Magic and just any TCG, any sport card, trading card. The flood of cards they would get would be just crazy, because I do believe that there is just a ton of people out there doing exactly what I'm doing, and what I hope you guys are starting to do is starting to acquire a lot of good cards that are worth it to be graded in the future. So yeah, that just kind of, the beginning topic of this video is that price fatigue. But let's see. I just wrote some other stuff. The Brilliant Star. Yeah, so that's a new set that was just, not released, but announced by Pokemon. And I've seen a lot of people like kind of on the fence about it. Like, personally, opposed to like a Shining Fates. I think this is a better set all around. I'm a big fan of character cards. If you guys are not new to this channel at all, you know how much I love Cosmic Eclipse, how much I just love character cards in general. So to really have Pokemon truly embrace character cards, and I think that's what they're doing in this, is truly embracing it. Like the Pikachu VMAX character card, that's going to be a card that I'm going to want. Like I've never really been like a super big fan of VMAXs. I always thought that VMAXs, for the most part, lacked a little bit here and there. But for a lot of these character cards, it's gonna be an awesome set. And I there's a lot of, and I've talked about it before. There's a lot of trainer cards or character cards or however you want to call it that I do wish they would just go back to the OGs. Just do a Misty Psyduck. Yeah, there's the card ass Misty Psyduck, but let's do a Brock and Onyx, Misty and Psyduck. For the first time ever, let's just bring out Ash and Pikachu. Like, let's do a Lieutenant Surge and a Raichu. I know that they have the Lieutenant Surge and the Magnemite and Cosmic Eclipse, but let's do a Lieutenant Surge and a Raichu. Like, I'm a Raichu guy. I want a Lieutenant Surge with Raichu, and don't give me all like the gym set. Yeah, there was definitely like the gym cards, but it wasn't the same. I'm talking about real character cards. Pokemon, you're so close. You're listening. You really are listening. You're so close to like pumping out some freaking awesome cards. Just go that one extra step and just give the people what they really want. Give us an Ash. And yeah, there was like the Ash Free Ninja box that Walmart had, a couple years ago and stuff, but I'm talking like actual character cards of the beloved trainers with their Pokemon. And yeah, the red and the Pikachu, they did it on Cosmic Eclipse, and even like the Pikachu VMAX for the character card, it's still red. It's not Ash. And yes, they are the same person more or less, but give us the TV show ones. But yeah, I'm gonna try to catch up on the chat. I could see it on the side of my eyes, like scrolling. Let's just read up real quick. And also in my last video, we talked that we thought PSA wasn't going to grade the gold stars from the ultra premium collections for Celebration, and they already are grading those. So I guess we were wrong about that. Returns have been hitting the market with lots of people need to relax their spending. Yeah, it is. We're just getting very close to those big flood of submissions for PSA. Like everybody talks about like graded gem because we're in that YouTube sphere, and graded gem was a lot of people's talking points, like for the type of collectors and the type of community we are. But we're starting to see a lot of those really hit the market too, and I think because a lot of people forget like how much time is in between submitting cards and getting them back. Like you could do say 1,000 card submission, and maybe a year ago you were in a little bit better financial position and it was worth it to send 1,000 cards out at $7, and then you had some really high end cards in there, and next thing you know it was like, oh, upcharge, 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 and you get your bill and you're just like, holy cow, now I need to send away a lot of these cards to really recoup some of that real initial, because it really is an investment when you think about it, because high-end PSA cards sell for just so much better than raw. So it is an investment, but there is that initial dollar amount needed up front. So you can see a lot of people trying to fire sale some, definitely like the lower end of those cards, and trying to just recoup back grading fees. Now, hopefully they're not in over their head where they just sent like super, super, super low end stuff, and it's just going to be a really treading water for a super long time to try to even break even. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know. That's just kind of brainstorming. I'm sure you think about a lot of the more vintage type Pokemon cards, a lot of people who might not have really sent cards in the past, so they're not really ready for a lot of those upcharges. They're not really ready for the actual realization that your grading fee bill is going to come to you. Like, it's a thing. It's going to eventually like rear its ugly head again. So hopefully some of the cards they sent will easily cover that. Sometimes it only takes like 2 or 3 cards you got to sell. But all right. So yeah, I said buying opportunities. Hey man, love your channel. Been watching for about a year. You offer a really unique perspective, and I really appreciate that. Hey, thanks a lot, Joe. I appreciate that. And it's funny. I try to present like what I'm thinking at the time, and that's why sometimes when you have your thoughts and you're making your videos, some of this stuff ages really well. Some of this stuff ages very poorly. You know, I've had videos that I consider like aged extremely well. I made a video back in January of January 2020. I said best investment in January 2020. And all it was I just told people to grade their cards. That was it. That was my best investment in January 2020. Because I said grading fees are going to rise. And we're going to start to see a lot of these grading card companies turnaround times go crazy and maybe even shut down. So at the time of that video for best investment, PSA was $10 and they're still accepting cards. So I would say that video aged pretty well. But then, you know, I have some other videos that probably don't age as well because they're like very in the moment. You try to keep YouTube more or less like up to date. Talk about the new sets. And when anytime you talk about new sets, like it could be very easy to overshoot the mark or miss the mark. But all right, let's see. Back to the chat. So don't have the government money anymore. You see how much people spend on graded celebrations. Yeah, isn't that weird? Oh, I just want to read the whole thing. You see how much people spend on graded celebrations. Seems there are still a lot of newcomers throwing money away or some impatient. Yeah, what? That's a great comment. What a mind bender pretzel that is, right? Why are people doing this still? Like, that is I made the video in the past talking about the psychology of Pokemon, but I'm not a psychiatrist. But man, like my argument would be when you see prices for cards right at release that get graded by PSA, that yeah, they all fall off a cliff eventually because sure you could have a PSA pop one Green Ninja Gold Star from the Celebrations ETB, sure. But guess what? That card isn't going to stay a pop one for maybe more than a day or however quickly you got that card degrading. And that card is not a rare card. We will see a bazillion Umbreon Gold Stars by the time Celebrations finishes printing, whether the last printing of Celebrations a year from now or we see another like evolutions type. We see celebrations and products for the next 6 years. Like there will be a ton of Green Ninja Gold Stars. So to see these cards selling at like $400-$500, right? Like for just so people could have them immediately, it makes you scratch your head and ask the question, how much money is actually in this freaking hobby? And when you think about all the problems we ran into like relatively recently within like the last year to 18 months, you got to think the people you were competing with trying to get product are that stupid. They're those like crazy stupid people, but they just must have like amounts of money that are mind bending, you know? Like I make decent amount of money. I sell a lot of Pokemon cards. I do pretty well in this hobby. I'm not like hard up. But listen, I can't even like comprehend spending. How much money would it even cost right now if you just went on eBay and tried to complete a graded set of celebrations by not ripping packs and opening packs or buying those cards raw, just to buy the already graded cards on eBay through auction? You're probably looking between like $300 to $500 each card for that 25 card subset. Oh my god, how are people, where the hell where is this money coming from? How stupid can people be? But these are the people we were trying to compete with, and it is crazy. It is crazy to think that there are literally people out there who can just spend money like that with no type of rationality, reasonality, nothing. And I mean, this is like why pack breakers were so successful during 2020. This is why, because there's just this stupid amount of money. And my argument personally was always these people will get wallet fatigue. These people will leave the hobby because there's no way somebody is buying PSA 10 Green Ninja cards right at release, knowing that they could really just, if for $400. How many ETBs can you buy? You can buy 8 ETBs for 400 bucks. Take those 8 Green Ninja cards, send them away without even seeing the condition. I guarantee a couple of them are to come back PSA 10s. Like, we're in, or at least take the 8 of them and look at them, pick the best one and send it away. It is crazy. It is just such a mind bender pretzel type thing. And I don't know if you would almost think it's just market manipulation, right? Like, it's the only thing that makes sense. But are they just manipulating like a small handful of people? Because the true collectors, the true investors are not the people buying those. I don't know. I don't know who's buying those. I have personally, it almost makes you think they're not real people. And the reason why I say that is because I've never ran into these people. I've never ran into the person who showed me like some super modern card in PSA 10 and it's like, yeah, man, I didn't open this card. I didn't grade this card. I bought this on the secondary market. Like, I've never met that person. I would love to meet that person and maybe they could give me a ride in their Bentley or their Ferrari or their Lambo. But yeah, that was a good comment though. Let's see what else we got. Patience is key. Patience is key. I got about 100 cards for the get me like 10 slabs, regrade and reslab. Yeah, I've been acquiring a couple too. I acquired one that I saw somebody actually talking about. So that's always fun too when you picked up like a graded slab because people were talking about like this card went for super cheap. And I was one that bought it. And I always love that. I won't tell you guys what card it is. Maybe in the future. I plan on making a video whenever. So here's my advice when it comes to picking up other cards from other grading companies slabbed. Keep them slabbed. Don't crack them. Like, don't start cracking them and put them in your penny savers and put them in your card saver ones. Like, you can wait to do that. Keep them slabbed. See how the market is when PSA actually does open. If by some crazy miracle thing that everybody turns around and they start actually equating the value to these other grading card companies, and that's that weird argument, right? It's buy the card, not the grade. People have been talking about that forever, but nobody means it. I mean that. On a high-end collector, they do not mean that. And we talked about PWCC in my last live, and I'm not going to like talk about it too much, but it's true. You could take PSA 8, GMA 8, Tree Frog Grading 8, CGC 8, whatever the hell Randall Pokemon, what is his? I don't even know. I made a video talking about his grading card company, or an SGC, or a Beckett, or the pile of yeah, I could have a pile of different grading card companies this big, all PSA, all varying conditions, and I could say, listen, guys, and we can go through each card methodically. And if that PSA was the worst condition card, I'm like, listen, this card was misgraded. It needs to go to the PSA and be regraded, be a 5. Nobody would care. Nobody would care. They would still equate that PSA 5 to a higher dollar amount. And the sooner you just accept that, and whether or not you agree with that, because you should really be buying the card and not the grade. But I'm just telling you, the entire hobby as a whole is not. And we're actually going to be bringing somebody on this channel hopefully soon. I just talked to him today. So he's a former employee for one of the very major sports card companies. And he dealt with all the printing issues. He flew around the country dealing with all kinds of stuff. And he personally like deals in the sports card market, something I know almost nothing about, but he has some real high-end cards. And we were just talking today, me and him, and he was talking about potentially cross-grading them with PSA. And and in the sports card market, he has a lot of like Beckett 9.5s, and he's talking about just cross-grading them because of how much money he can get. But he has some really high-end cards, and maybe he's actually going to like literally be here. Probably won't be on the couch. He'll probably be at my kitchen table or something, but it's going to be a fun video. It's going to be the first guest I ever have on this. All right, back to the chat. All right, let's see what else, guys. And did you see that CGC was letting people pay for subgrades and sending them back without them and saying, too bad, we won't refund you or fix them? Go on. I did not know that. Was that Andrew wrote that? That would be crazy. I mean, that would be insane. If that was true, and I listen, Andrew, I can't confirm. I can't even like say if I what you're saying is true, but we speculate all the time on this channel. If that is true, that would be the biggest slap in the face move ever. Can you imagine? Because one, that's a lot of like what people's arguments are for CGC is I personally don't send away a lot of cards with subgrades because it's for the majority of the cards I was sending to CGC were very low end. And the reason why I'd send my low end cards is because the market was just so hot buying up this stuff. And I knew for the low end stuff, I might have like we could be in a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of these low end stuff, sending in CGC sevens, eights, and getting like $40 for some of this stuff on eBay that you can buy raw for less than five. Like this could be a once in a lifetime. Like we still talking about black swan events and how 2020 was a black swan event. The fact that there are some grading cards that are selling for extremely high dollars still to this day. And I definitely rushed a lot of cards to CGC, did not pay for subgrades because for me, they were more or less bulk. But okay, back to what I'm saying. A lot of those cards I sent all came back low grades and they come back as CGC grades. And hopefully by now, if you sent cards to CGC, you know what a CGC grade is. It's just a 9 or an 8.5. Oh my God, the CGC 8.5s that exist out there that are just who knows what grade they might have graded at PSA. Some of these 8.5s could have graded 10s. Like it's crazy. But like the CGC 9 with zero transparency of why your absolute gem mint card got a 9 to now take away that transparency by not giving subgrades and then just flooding cards back to people and telling them go kick rocks. Oh, if that was true, oh my God, I would love to make a video on that. That would be awesome. Talk about and that's the big thing about CGC is people talk about CGC having like this great customer service, and I have not found that to be true at all. But that's what people say. But man, Andrew, if that was true, that would be awesome. Might be cheaper to get the vintage version. Love your videos. Thank you, Evan. You're the man. All right. Just look around you. Does it surprise you that much? While capable of restraint, paying those prices for nudes yet. I don't feel POC will never be taken down. Yeah, so basic. Let me ask. So basic trainers in this chat, if you're rewatching this video after the fact. So basic trainer, I want to ask you a question. So you've been in the hobby now for a pretty long time. I've seen like a very little bit of your collection just from the different lives you've been on. Now, did you used to send your cards away for grading, or because I know there's no way that you've just been continuously buying cards and never selling anything. So are you just really buying a lot of raw cards, sitting on them for your binder collection, or were you sending cards away in the past, to be graded? And if that was the case, you're familiar with PSA and stuff. What are your thought process when you just see people like there's no way that they're ever not going to look at PSA Be King? So I would like to hear your thoughts on that. But let's see what else. Yeah, so Andrew's talking about the CGC thing again. He says, yeah, apparently it has happened more than once and it just happened for someone who makes videos. Have to look it up. Yeah, I would like to see that video. No, that would be very interesting. Man. But it's an interesting time in the market right now for a lot of different reasons. I think a lot of people, I think we all tried to predict what the bubble would look like. And I think that's a great conversation to have. And it's like the intellectual conversation to have. And I think a lot of people always talked about Pokemon being this weird thing where we're going to go up to the top of the cliff just like that typical bubble graft, and we're going to just crash and burn down. And everybody talks about bubbles, but it's almost like everybody was talking about bubbles and living in the bubble and just being okay with it. But now the question is, we never really saw like this drastic downtrend. Like, we definitely saw some products take a hit. We definitely saw some sets take a hit, but comparable to what? Like, that's the crazy thing, is comparable to 2019. Well, then everything doesn't really look that bad. So you can make the argument we're still in the bubble. But now everybody's been talking about bubbles for so long. You gotta, like, at some point ask, when is the bubble truly going to burst? And there's a different conversations about the bubble too, right? Like, you look at recent sales on PWCC, the Torchic, the Gold Star from Team Rocket Returns sold for $50,000. Some of the real high end cards, like a PSA 9 Charizard First Edition, I think sold for like 28,000 and change, but that's a very respectable price for that grade card. Like, the high end stuff is still holding very strong. We saw the EX Deoxys box sell for $60,000. Yeah, they really tried, and I give them all the respect in the world. They tried to pump up, EX Deoxys box to $100,000. I thought that was huge sort of market manipulation and never really worked. I don't think anybody ended up being that stupid and paying that. But, we're seeing the high end cards continue this uptrend. And when you have this many people enter the hobby, there's no way that everybody entering the hobby can go after $50,000 cards. You're talking about a very small subset of the entire collecting hobby, right? Like, a $50,000 card or Charizard First Edition, which is so out of the realm of any sort of realistic price of what that card should be, or any real high-end cards. When you start getting in that 5-digit area, that 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 for a First Edition Bulbasaur, when you start to get into those, sorry, I couldn't help myself. When you start to get into like the 5 figures for cards, though, there's a smaller group of people that just have that kind of available income. So you would expect at lower grade, or maybe cards that aren't like super high end demand, you would expect at least to see those continue the rise, because you got to think that the people in the hobby on the lower end who can't afford these cards would keep these cards going up. And are we seeing that? Kinda. Are we not seeing that? Maybe. I think the big trouble is just education. Educating newer people into the hobby and getting them to look at older sets, to get excited about sets that you can't open them. You can't. Even like, I don't know. Give me a EX set. EX Dragons. I talked about EX Dragons on this channel before. Got 3 secret rares: Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. You're not going to open those packs. I don't even, like $100 for an EX Dragon pack, not worth it. EX Dragon is just not a set that has a ton of great cards in it. You're not going to be able to open a lot of these packs. And I think a lot of people do want to still open packs. And it makes sense. Like, opening packs is fun. So then you now have to take, and that's like, we've now divided the collecting hobby of Pokemon into like 2 very strong groups. The modern collector, but I think the modern collector is the sealed product collector. And then the vintage collector is the raw card or graded card collector. Because for vintage, there was always in the past sealed product collectors, but it's not like the sealed product collector of today. So it's almost as if you have 2, like very distinct type of collector mentalities. So now, to take this guy who only loves this modern collector, who only loves the sealed product and the thought of sealed product and everything that comes along with the sealed product, and looking at what every single sun and moon set did, from 2019 to, or sorry, from 2018, 19, looking at those and saying, wow, Team Up went crazy. Lost Thunder went crazy. Cosmic Tips went crazy, and they just got that sealed product mentality to try to like educate them and get them excited about raw cards. And that's the thing too, like you need to get excited about raw cards because you need to grade cards yourself. Because when you talk about like the real like value collector, value investor, the guy who really makes a lot of money is the guy that could grade raw cards himself and sell those. It's simple. Like, and I've heard people make weird arguments that there are no near mint cards anymore on the market available for sale. You can't purchase near mint cards. That's not true. That is not true at all. There are a lot of near mint cards on the market. You just got to be patient. You can't like, I almost wish you could take a robot or a person that is really in depth, like entrenched, take their brain out for a second and just for the sake of the conversation's sake of argument, let's just say you could deprive them of food and water and social interaction, and just they could be a robot just for 30-day timeline. And this is just a conversation. You give them $10,000 and you say, listen, go on eBay. You get to search one keyword, Pokemon. That's it. And you get to watch every, every newly listed Pokemon auction that goes up for sale, every buy it now, and you get to see at every, ending soonest item. And they had $10,000 budget. If they could just be a robot and just watch eBay 24 hours a day for an entire month, just like a robot, with $10,000, I bet you can take that $10,000 by watching every single newly listed item and every single item ending soonest. You could probably turn that $10,000, if you had like a very good Pokemon brain, into a ton of money by just buying raw cards. It would, I mean, that's whatever. I think that was a little bit of a tangent right there, but it's true. All right, let's get back to the chat. Basic Trainer said, never submitted until last fall. I have always increased and funded my collection via side hustles, allowances, and gifts. Family is very generous, help fund. Oh, hey man, that's pretty awesome that you're able to grow without ever sending cards out. All right, let's see. So Cheval says, have you been buying all those exclusive collection boxes that release lately? They're releasing so much stuff lately. Yeah, I whenever I could find stuff for a good deal, I'll buy it. I don't buy anything over MSRP when I don't have to. Probably going to scale back after Brilliant Star. Really excited for that set, but for the rest of the year, yeah, man, I think a lot of people are scaling back in a way, and I've talked about this before. Modern's cheap. It is. If you could pick it up at MSRP, it's cheap. You could probably pick up 2 booster boxes, 2 ETBs if you wait long enough, give yourself a $300, budget. $300 in the Pokemon hobby. Is that a lot of money? Maybe for some people it is. You look at $1,000 Pokemon card. Yeah, maybe it's not. You could. It's a weird thing, but I do think a lot of people are slowing down right now. All right. For a decade now, birthdays, Father's Day, Christmases, anniversaries, I have given cash or gift cards from all members of my family. It's like having a cheer team. Very fortunate. That's awesome, Basic. Yeah. No, my wife, she would never buy me Pokemon cards for Christmas. She wouldn't really know, one, what to buy. And I think she lives in the world of denial. She likes to see the money come in. She doesn't like to see the money go out. So, and because you got to think about it, Pokemon is, if you look at it as a collecting or an investing, you tie up money for a long time. Money in Pokemon gets tied up. Like, It's simple. I think a lot of people struggle with that fact. They think about, like, what's your timeline for how long you're going to have money tied up for? I think that's a hump a lot of people need to get over. And I always fear that if that is people's concern, anytime when I talk about, okay, yeah, do I think, well, give me a super modern set, Vivid Voltage. Do I think Vivid Voltage in 5 years will be a good investment? Yeah, sure, I do. But if you were to tell me that you don't have the money to tie up for $110 or $100 on a Vivid Voltage booster box, I'm going to just flat out tell you we shouldn't have had the first part of that conversation. If you can't tie up money in the long run, you probably shouldn't be sitting in product and tie it up for the long term. I think there's a lot of money you can make in Pokemon just in the short term. You could flip and rip and burn stuff and, you know, be smart, buy cards for cheap, turn around, flip them. Like you can do that. There is definitely the work that's involved in that, but it is, I don't know. People are overpaying for slabs. You sure make money buying raw and grading. Yeah. Tons of raw, near mint vintage cards in Mexico, Japan. If you're patient and consistent, don't overpay. Yeah. So, all right. This is my thought process. I'm not going to get too in depth because this cannot just be a 1 hour video. This could be like a 12-year long video talking about the Japanese market. So, when you really look at the Japanese market, especially for vintage cards, there's a couple things to take in mind. A lot of the vintage sets, guaranteed hollow per box. And you're getting a lot more than 36 packs per booster box. So there is a lot of vintage Japanese cards out there in the world. Now, for us as English collectors, whether you live in North America or Europe or Australia, wherever you live, you might think that the Japanese market of vintage hollows is relatively controlled. But when you look at like Yahoo auctions in Japan, where you just look at how many Japanese vintage hollows probably exist, just whether it's base set hollows or jungle or fossil or Team Rocket Japanese hollows, there is so much of that stuff that truly exists. So for vintage Japanese stuff, there is definitely some scarcer, rarer stuff. The Japanese market as a whole is so much different than like vintage English. And the reason I don't go super strong into it is because I personally believe that the market in America is so heavily manipulated because of the fact of like just what I said, that there just doesn't, the supply isn't here in America or in Europe or in Australia, but it doesn't mean that the supply doesn't exist. So just that fact really causes that market to be heavily manipulated. Now, for a lot of like Japanese exclusive cards, it takes a long time to understand, like, especially the Japanese promo market. And the reason why I say that is because Japanese promo cards versus the English counterparts for that same exact card, how they were distributed can be drastically different. You know, like Pikachu Gold Star. Let's just think about that, right? Pikachu Gold Star in English, you know, uh, very obvious that it was a set card. Okay? Everyone, big fan favorite. But when you look at Pikachu Gold Star, it was released in like a tin box, like a lunchbox kind of thing. And yeah, it's a gold star, but the release for that card is much different. Now, to look at but then you got to look at, well, the time period of that card and everything, and it's still going to demand an extremely high price. And I'm not really going to talk about like the demand. I think there is a strong demand for that card and everything. But what I'm trying to get at is the releases for so many Japanese cards. You need to study like every single card, and it just is a lot of work. It takes a lot to understand how every single Japanese card was released, and then how much of that Japanese card actually exists on the market and in which way was it distributed. It's just when you start to peel back the layers, and I think a lot of people look at Japanese cards and they say, "Oh, I like this holo. Oh, let me look at the English counterpart. Oh, the English counterpart is selling for $2,000 and this Japanese card's only selling for $300. This card is undervalued." And it's not like that, really. There is a reason why that card is priced in that sort of way. And I just don't have the time to like go through a ton of Japanese cards. And every time I see one, and I'm just like, how was this released? And then you go and yeah, you learn the sets. You learn like, yeah, sure, there's all the English equivalents for a lot of this stuff. I mean, there's a lot of fun like e-reader set type. If you were going to go after Japanese cards, in my opinion, I would say go after like more of the Japanese e-reader equivalents. You know, go after the Expedition equivalent, go after the Skyridge equivalent, go after the Quapolis equivalent, go after those type of sets. Like if you were going to go after the Japanese holo route, do not go for the base set. Do not go for the Team Rocket. Do not go for, you know, like pretty much anything except for those e-readers. There's definitely a lot of fun cards. And Japanese cards, when it comes to modern cards, when it comes to Pikachu promo cards, oof, gotta love Japanese. Talk about being spoiled. You know, us as English collectors, we are not spoiled when it comes to freaking awesome Pikachu promo cards. Japanese collectors, extremely spoiled. There's a lot of cards I still wish Pokemon would roll out, you know? And when you look at super modern stuff too, like there is a ton of awesome Pikachu artworks, you know? So just that was a long-winded thing talking about Japanese cards, but like, all right. Anyways, do 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 do. All right. Well, let's see. I gotta catch back up on the chat. See where I am. Never submitted. Okay. As for PSAs, typically new people saying they won't be king. Yeah, I'll never aim at a CGC card. I'll tell you what. CGC has nice slab. If you like the card and you don't care about like the perceived value of everyone else, go after any grading card company as long as you can look at the card and say, hey, it's actually in good condition. I think Call of Legends is super dope set. Oh yeah, big time. Call of Legends, fun set. Love the energy cards in it too. Brilliant Stars will be set to go after them. Characters for a decade now. Birthday. Oh, I'm sorry. I think how did I get back at this point in the chat? Vintage Japanese, in my opinion, will be appreciated even more as time goes by, opposed to English. Like that could be true, basic. Like it's just there's a lot. There's just a lot in Pokemon. There's a lot in Japanese. Japanese is overvalued in a lot of areas, yes, and it's also undervalued in a lot of areas. It's a very weird thing. Japanese is not an easy thing to collect on a high end if you're going to do it right. I don't care what people say. And to talk about that comment when you say Japanese is overvalued in a lot of areas, you're right. But it's you make the same every argument you can make about it being overvalued, you can make it about English being overvalued. And every area in the Japanese market where you talk about it being undervalued, you could talk about it in the English market. You know, it's just there's a lot. That's why I don't talk about it on this channel because there's a lot more speculation than there's a lot more to talk about for Japanese cards than meets the eye. And now that we live in the day and age we live in with Google Translator and everything, Google Translator, when it comes to the Japanese market, is a huge game changer. You can never buy product on like Amazon Japan or anything, or try to, become a, Yahoo auctions type guy. Like Google Translator now has made that very possible for people that didn't have like very strong Japanese connections. And even that, like when you talk about a couple years ago, the true Japanese card market, and to be able to get a lot of those cards, move them over, I call it move them over into the English market. And when I say English market, I mean like this area, English eBay, stuff like this. You needed somebody who was already entrenched in that market and could acquire those cards. It's changed a lot with Google Translator. So who knows what the market's going to look like in the future with a lot of these cards, but no. Let's see. Rock, like what did Rock Pokemon say? I didn't even see. All right. I think swapping in CGC slabs of great quality cards and selling your PSA could be a nice strategy. I did that. I didn't swap them out per se, but I had an absolutely fully complete set of base set, all 102 cards. I had them graded PSA 9 or 10, first edition Shadowless cards. Almost a year ago, I sold every single one of those cards. Some of them I sold first edition PSA 10s for $100. I was a little early to it, but the prices I was into those cards was almost nothing. A lot of those PSA first edition 10s creeped up to like $300, $400. I do wish I waited a little bit, but I sold a lot of, well, actually, I sold all my commons and uncommons because I was still sitting on a lot of raws of the same cards, and I did replace most of those cards with lower grade cards as like a temporary filler, and I wish I never did that. I wish I never replaced them with temporary fillers, because the temporary fillers I replaced, I should have sold when the market was hotter. So I did do that, and it worked good and bad at the same time. It was not a perfect thing. I think that it's true. All right. And I did not have a first edition Charizard PSA 10, if that's what you're asking. And I wouldn't have owned that card. I would have sold it at probably $10,000 a long time ago, because that card's always been overrated. It's never not been overrated. Sorry, I'm trying to read the chat at the same time. All right. I think it's true. There's also people who care about playing and can't use them. All right. I started building English master sets, but soon went after Japanese. Just appealed to me more. Yeah. Then you have to look at the market of English speaking places. Let's see. I'm gonna skip right to the bottom of the chat. If there's any questions I missed, just let me know. Okay. I'm glad to see a lot of you guys in this chat. I appreciate you guys coming here and joining. I always say it all the time. Your most valuable resource is not money. Your most valuable resource is by far time. So anytime you guys are willing to share your time with me, like, I am so thankful for you just tuning in. And if you do me a favor, hit that pause button, or just go down below to the comments and just hit the like button, because it really helps me out a lot, because I get this video out to other people, and I do just love talking about Pokemon. I hope you guys love talking about Pokemon. And by hitting that like button, it could potentially bring this to a bigger audience. Maybe somebody that's never seen this channel or never been to one of these lives might just come across it because YouTube decides to recommend it to somebody's front page. So, yeah. How long has it been since you shaved off your afro? I don't think I had an afro. I don't have an afro, guys. I'm kind of balding in a way. Just a high and tight. Invest in battle style single for financial freedom by 2025. We should make some. I wouldn't make t-shirts, but that would be a great t-shirt idea. You guys like The Office where Michael Scott talks into his little recorder and he's like, t-shirt idea. Invest in battle styles for financial freedom in 2025 t-shirt idea. Like we should do that. We should just have like a store where it's just the most ridiculous like Pokemon quotes we could come up with. And do me a favor in the comments, write like the dumbest Pokemon t-shirt thought you could put. Like what would you love to see on a Pokemon t-shirt? I would love to see like it would be like my favorite Pokemon, it'd be like, and it would say Charizard, but like the photo would be like Squirtle, or it would just be like it would look like one of those really poor knockoffs, but it would just be like tons of ironic stuff. Pokemon or crypto long term. I don't know if we want to do that. I feel like if I talk crypto or I talk different investment things, like it takes away from what this channel is. This is definitely like a Pokemon conversation. Appreciate you guys. A lot of people in the chat saying that they listen to a lot of my videos and stuff. Like I was saying early in the video, guys, man, I wish I could just spend a lot of time talking to the camera or talk to the microphone and just doing the memes. But man, having a baby at home, time management has gone out the window. Like I get home from work, I don't know about you guys, but I don't bring a lot of my work home with me. But I bring like an hour's worth of work at home. Next thing I know, like come through the door, I take a shower, wife hands the baby to me. Then when he goes to sleep at 7, it's like an hour's worth of work. I unwind for like an hour. Next thing I know, it's 9, 10 o'clock. And I'm like, I gotta go to bed. Like I don't even have time to make videos anymore. So that's why I'm doing this. So, and I'm sure you guys all have kids out there. You know exactly how it is. But I would like to, what do you think? I don't know. What do you think are just, we'll talk maybe some underrated Pokemon sets. Underrated. As the market adapts, as the market changes, where should you be putting your money if you have it? I kind of talked about it a little bit in this video. You know, a lot of like vintage raw cards. And this is my opinion. Picking up some cards for grading. But like, are there any sets that you guys are really looking at? I know earlier we saw Call of Legends, and I think Call of Legends is not really like the type of sets I'm talking about for this video. But maybe like, I mean, a lot of people like Team Rocket Returns. Team Rocket Returns is a fun set. Tons of good cards. Yes, it has the 3 gold stars in it. Has the Mudkip, the Treco, and we talked about it earlier, the Torchic, because it just sold for, $50,000. But it has, I guess, I don't know, call them 2 secret rares. You have the Charmeleon and the Team Rocket Returns. Again, Charmeleon being called the secret rare, but it's actually a box topper. And if you're not like new to this channel, I've talked about box toppers in the past. Obviously, like the Pikachu box topper, I made probably now multiple videos like talking about it or at least mentioning it. But yeah, that the Charmeleon box topper is, and I like that card. And it has the fundamentals I talk about. When you talk about a set that is not going to be opened up a lot, and at least for booster boxes, there is not a lot of people opening EX Team Rocket Returns booster boxes. There's not. I bet you the amount of booster boxes that are being opened up in an entire year, you could probably count on 1 or 2 hands, and maybe that's a stretch. There is not a lot of those booster boxes being open. That Charmeleon, secret rare box topper, maybe that's a card you could consider building a little position in, or at least picking up some of them raw, especially when they sell for like $30, Hint, hint, wink, wink. Market manipulation, wink, wink. But then even like Here Comes Team Rocket, the other secret rare, like, yeah, you got the actual Team Rocket. Here Comes Team Rocket, or whatever it is. Yeah, Here Comes Team Rocket. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm like mixing up words. Maybe I'm having like a little mini stroke. I don't know. But you look at like that Team Rocket secret rare, and they rolled it into Team Rocket Returns also being a secret rare. But I like that artwork much better. Yeah, even we saw it in Celebrations, the Here Comes Team Rocket. The reprint for that secret rare from Team Rocket. But the secret rare from EX Team Rocket Returns is the better of that card because it has like Jesse and James standing up. You can see their full body. You can see the Team Rocket outfit. It's a much nicer card. And there's a lot of those EX sets, man, that and we'll keep with the train of thought before I go off on a tangent. Like EX Team Rocket Returns too, man. A lot of dark Pokemon. If you are a dark Pokemon fan, that is a set that has a lot of good cards in it. And a lot of those cards are not like heavily sought after by people. People get real like fixated on the flashy shit, man. Like the flashy cards and sets, that's what people care about. They don't care about like the cool cards and the dark cards. And there's a lot of dark Pokemon, just all around fun set. Probably a lot of people's one of their most favorite sets of all time. And just something to think about. I don't even remember what the topic was or why we were talking about this. But I think we were talking about sets that could be fun to buy. Zard. All right. Let's see. What's the chat talking about? Shining Fates is watered down Hidden Fates. Sure. That's a Zard chases. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Let me see what. Sorry, I'm reading the chat. Part of my Team Rocket theme collection. Yeah. But there's just it's funny, right? You can literally talk about every set that Pokemon has ever released, and you can have in-depth conversations. I think that's one of the things a lot of people like forget about is that there's just you can talk about every single set and why it's fun, why it's exciting. And you don't even have to like just EX. You can go after each set and the distinction and why they change and why they're fun. You can talk about Expedition, right? Why is Expedition fun? Well, it's great quality cards, great cards, Gen 1, Gen 2 starters in there. Like, not printed to oblivion. Aquapolis, not printed to oblivion. Aquapolis, the first of the crystal cards. We got the Crystal Lugia in there. Freaking awesome card. Skyridge, you know how I feel about Skyridge. EX Fire or EX Fire Red or EX Ruby Sapphire. I was about to say EX Fire Red Leaf Green. Excuse me. EX Ruby Sapphire. The first Nintendo set. There's a lot going on there. EX Dragons. 3 secret rares. Charmander. Charmeleon. Charizard. The first Charizard as a secret rare. 103 out of 100. The first Nintendo Charizard ever. There's just, so and then you go EX Sandstorm. Evolutions. Then EX, I call it Legends of the Hidden Temple. Like, that's an awesome set too. Doesn't get any sort of love. Then what was before EX Team Rockets returns? EX whatever. But like then we just talked about EX Team Rocket returns, and you can just go on forever. Listen, there are because then you start going to all the Gold Star sets, guys. Like after EX Team Rocket returns and go, you talk about all the good Gold Star sets. Yeah, you got the Deoxys and then you got Hollow Phantoms, and you got and then Crystal Guardians, and then even with like EX Crystal Guardians, like there's all the Delta Species cards in there, and forget about even the Gold Stars. You got the the crystal or the Delta Species Charizard, you know, like it just, there's so many different cards in so many different sets that you just can't not enjoy them. Even a commons and uncommons, you know, and we just talked about, so now it's fresh on my mind. But like Delta Species, commons, uncommons, like, you know, let's just look at. All right, we're talking about different EX Delta Species cards. Let's just look at the actual set. EX Delta Species. We'll just talk about that set. We won't even talk about the subset of Delta Species cards. And if you don't know what Delta Species cards is, like a Charizard with a lightning attack, you know? So like the Crystal Guardians Charizard has a lightning attack. Those are the Delta Species cards. But you can just talk about the actual set, EX Delta Species. And it's like, well, how can you get excited about a set like that? Well, you think about all the Ditto cards in that. And if you don't know what the Ditto cards are in the EX Delta Species sets, there's like a Ditto Squirtle, Ditto Charmander, Ditto Pikachu, like huge fan favorite Pokemon, but they're Dittos. And so they are like a Squirtle, but with that like straight line Ditto face. I mean, those cards are for commons, uncommons. You can go out right now and buy them for like $1 on eBay. $1, you know, and those cards are freaking awesome. And even that card, you know, and then there's like the EX cards in there. Some of the reverse hollows in some of these sets. Oh my God, you could just talk about cards and sets, and you can, you know, that's why I always laugh like when people get excited about modern, and I think modern's exciting for a lot of people is because they get to learn about these cards, and you're never late to the party with modern, right? If anything, like I'm late to the party for modern. Like I had to write down on a piece of paper what the new Brilliant Star set was. I couldn't even remember. Like I couldn't even remember the name of the set. I'm not even a huge fan personally of the artwork in the new set. And I've talked about it before. Like, if you want to ever talk bad about artwork in Pokemon, like, you should be chastised. Like, no one wants to hear that anymore. But man, we are it. How do you explain it? It's just Pokemon is just huge. It's so much bigger than everyone thinks. It's it's not like this small set or small thing. Like, how many expansions really are there in Pokemon? There's like 90 plus. I used to know the number, but Pokemon just keeps pumping them out. I want to say it's like 92, 93 expansions. I could be wrong. And that's not even including like the specialty sets. That's not talking about Shining Legends. It's not talking about Shining Fates. It's not talking about, you know, Dragon Frontier or Dragon Majesty or Hidden Fates or Hidden Legend or whatever. And whatever. I don't know why I said Hidden Legends. I don't think that's a thing. Well, it is, but it's not a specialty set. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just so many different sets, and then you can talk about like promo cards, and that's why I think it's funny too that. And then how many Black Star promos are there just in WotC alone? You know, think about just looking at WotC Black Star promos, and then diving in. How were they released? You know, you go to the first WotC Black Star promo, like the Ivy Pikachu. Like, why is that important? Like, why do we care about that? Well, if you guys are in the Pokemon League, like, that card was given to you. It wasn't a prize card or anything. It was just it was a thank you card. A thank you card for coming to the Pokemon League. And like, that's why we all probably are sitting on our one pretty beat up copy of an Ivy Pikachu, and it's worth its weight in gold to us because we got it at Toys R Us when we went to the Pokemon League. And that was the first of all the Black Star promos, you know? Like, think about that. Think about the first of anything. And Black Star promos, think about how Black Star promo has just rewritten itself into the wording and the coding almost of our DNA in a way, right? Like, that's how many Black Star promos now exist throughout Pokemon. But like, that was the first one. And every card like that It has a story. And you can write books, you can make movies. It's interesting, man. All right. That's why when I made that video talking about the psychology of Pokemon, like that's what I'm talking about. Like it's a psychological thing. When people talk about like Pokemon's going away, I'm like, man, there are some people out there that's not letting it go away. All right, you said Booyah, said Emerald before Team Rocket. Yep. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up on the chat a little bit. I went off on a long tangent. I don't even know what I was talking about or where I was going. I was driving my car and I didn't have my hands on the wheel. All right. EX Air reverse hollows are sweet. All of them. Yes. Especially ones that have set names on it. And that the fact that you talked about Emerald reverse hollows are nice too, because that Emerald, like on the reverse hollows, it looks just beautiful. And the quality, a lot of those cards, freaking awesome too. You say Booyah. So I love that your name is You Say Booyah on here. I love to like, if you ever want to reach out to me, I love to just have some, conversations with you about Pokemon. If maybe you ever wanted to come on one of these. So one of the things I do want to do is, open up the channel to more people and have more, not maybe like a podcast type conversation. And You Say Booyah, you're one of the people that I've thought about. Just you do seem to have a very strong knowledge of vintage, probably even much stronger than mine. So I would like to hear some of your thoughts and just maybe just throw some stuff off you, some of my thoughts, and maybe do it in more of an open sort of atmosphere, like a conversation. You can say no, but it'd definitely be something that'd be interesting. Let's see. EX says, let's see. What do you think of the Pikachu World collections? I feel like I never hear anybody talk about them. Which world are you talking about? Are you talking about the Pikachu World Collection from 2015? Which I don't. I think a lot of people. I write down in the comments exactly what you're describing. EX era has the best reverse hollows of all time. Not sure if we'll ever get stamped or have a hollow in art box again. Thoughts on XY era full arts. So let's see. Megas and Pokemon card singles. Most cards go for less than $30, and most people don't take care of those because value wasn't there. Pop reports seem pretty low for modern for XY era stuff. XY era full art cards. That is a How do I even want to go tackle that? That is a let me circle back on that, because I have a love-hate relationship with all XY era sets. And the reason why I have love-hate relationship with XY era stuff is because XY era was legit like such a low point for so much of Pokemon. Like, yeah, people talk about like the very end of XY, and they talk about like Pokemon Go, and they talk about evolutions. What came out right before evolutions? It was freaking Steam Siege. And when you keep going back and you look at sets that, like, look at Roaring Skies, like Roaring Skies for a lot of people, like, brings back a lot of weird feels. And when I say a lot of weird feels, it's just you look at Roaring Skies, like that set, like it went up in value and then it got reprinted. And people watched like everything crash. And then in the XY era stuff, you have like your Crimson Invasions. And yeah, people do weird things and they talk about like, well, look at Battle Styles. Battle Styles is like Crimson Invasion. And I just want to shake people and tell them, no, Battle Styles is not like Crimson Invasion. Just want to shake them. It's not like that at all. Battle styles with the alternative arts in it, the Tyranitar, I call it the sleeping Yogi Berra. Yeah, Yogi Bear, like from the cartoon, like it looks like he was still in a picnic basket. That alternative art card is awesome. The Urshifu cards in that set are awesome. There are a lot of good cards in battle styles. It's not a bad set. So when I hear people compare it to a Crimson Invasion, when Crimson Invasion, literally, the only good card in it was Gyarados GX. Like, Gyarados GX, there was nothing good in Crimson Invasion. It was one of the most lackluster sets of all time. And when people will say things like, well, Gyarados is a fan favorite Pokemon. No, it is, but it's not. When you look at Crimson Invasion, it wasn't like a strong set card. You look at when was the most recent set we got of Gyarados is Evolving Skies. Yeah, surrounded by evolutions, surrounded by dragon Pokemon. Gyarados in Evolving Skies is one of the least valuable cards because it cannot compete with literally everything else in that set. It doesn't compete because no one cares about Gyarados on a high end. So that's why Crimson Invasion was one of the reasons it was a very lackluster set from a and everything I'm talking about is from a collectability standpoint. So when I see questions, when people ask questions about XY era stuff, it gives me all the feels because even XY base set is so lackluster. Yeah, we're seeing booster boxes and sealed product and all this stuff sell for crazy high dollar amounts. You know, Guardian Risings and stuff, like, yeah, Guardian Risings from a playability standpoint was a fantastic set. Nobody's denying that. I'm not talking about XY era stuff from a playability, like I said, just a collectability. So when people ask me, do I think that full art XY era cards are going to have like great long-term viability, long-term value to them? I don't know. And that's all I'm going to say about that. It's like that scene in Forrest Gump where Tom Hanks is talking at the was it the Lincoln Memorial? And at the very they take the sound out, and at the very end he's like, and that's all I got to say about that. So, all right, back to the chat. I'm pretty bad at going off on tangents. I am sorry, guys. Yes, and so remember those. All right, let's skip down to the bottom. Clear, you are part of the pro. Let's see, what did Rock say? Gyarados is one of my favorites, and that Rainbow Gyarados is my favorite modern card. Good for you. If you mean that, good for you. I would love it if all my favorite cards were from the sets that were the cheapest forever. Crimson Invasion was cheap forever. I think it's still cheap, depending on what your qualifications for what is cheap. It's $150 cheap for you, then it's probably still cheap. You could go pick up a nice sealed booster box, Crimson Invasion. Who's luckier than you guys? All right. I don't mind battle styles at all. Some nice cards from the set. Yeah, man. I think battle styles is going to be one of those things. It's a set, modern set, printed to oblivion. But people are going to look back on it. They're going to look at the price tag at $85, and they're going to kick themselves. They're going to say, I wish I just pulled the trigger on a bunch of battle styles. Oh, let's see. Whoa. Rice loves 89. Love your, hey, that's my first ever super chat. Thank you very much. Love your channel and all the information you provide us. I was wondering what your view on Japanese vintage Pokemon cards. You just gave me a super chat, and I would love to answer yours. I went off on a Japanese vintage Pokemon rant earlier today, and I don't know if I could talk about it again. So I'll give you the Cliff Note version of. So if you want to go back and watch this stream, I talked about Japanese forever. What I pretty much said in Japanese is there's a lot involved. when it comes to vintage cards, it's just a matter of understanding the market, understanding that when you talk about Japanese, and I'm trying to talk quick because I don't want to like everybody else has probably already listened to this, but you did give a super chat. A lot of these old Japanese booster boxes, they had all hollows in every single pack. It wasn't like you were getting 36 packs. You were getting a lot more than that in a booster box. So there's a lot of this vintage stuff. Japanese cards rolled out much different than American. So you can see a lot of American counterpart cards selling for huge dollar amounts, but you need to understand how the Japanese cards were released, and were they released as promo cards, were they released in sets, and trying to get a true understanding of the actual populations of some of these Japanese cards can get very tough if you're only looking at like PSA Pop reports. Yahoo Japan auctions, very tough, very different type of mindset. There is a lot of Japanese cards that exist in people's collections in Japan that just haven't made their way over to I call it the English market, so North America, Australia, Europe. It just hasn't made it over yet, so you don't really understand a true representation of the actual Japanese vintage market. If you want to go after Japanese vintage cards, go after some of the Japanese more EX vintage stuff. So, the like whatever the Japanese expedition equivalent is, Aquapolis, Skyridge, go after those type of vintage Japanese cards. But sorry, I would love to answer your question in more depth, but go back, watch this video, and I went down a rabbit hole of it. I talk about like, you look at like the Pikachu Gold. Earlier in my video, I talk about like the Pikachu Gold Star for English. Yes, Pikachu Gold Star. How is Pikachu Gold Star released in Japan? It's released in like a lunchbox tin. It's very different releases. There's a reason why Japanese cards sell for less. Just understand so sorry. But I do appreciate the super chat, and that's why I answered your question. All right. Jody, how's it going, bud? I appreciate you joining the live stream. I see you in a lot of different people's chats. Let's see. Break cards were so out of place, man. Gross. What a great take. I've heard people refer to break cards as a lot of things, and gross is not one that I've ever heard of. I like it though. There are a couple fun break cards though. So I don't think they're gross. I think they're actually maybe slightly. I don't even want to. This is going off on the ledge. Total the ledge. Maybe they're a little underrated. And I say maybe why they're a little underrated because they sell for like $1 or $2. So like maybe there are some weak ones like the Machamp, probably not like the best break card, but then like the Lugia is a nice one, but I like it. Maybe they're a little underrated at $1 and in near mint condition for you could pull a break card from a XY era pack that costs $15. Let's see what else. I hope you guys are reading the chat as I'm doing this video. Otherwise, this would be a very not fun type video. Let's see. Hey Mason, how's it going? Mason, I would like to reach out to you one day and have a one-on-one conversation with you, and just talk about some of the misconceptions from a video I made in the past, and kind of just bounce some stuff off of you. I'm a big fan. Andrew, thanks a lot, bud. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Yeah, I'll email you. Mason at Cardinal. Okay. There'll be a run on breaks this weekend. Can you imagine the run on breaks? It was like everybody talks about it on other channels, like break cards. Whatever. What are we at? Like 2016 was the last. So 6 years in the making break cards, and now there's finally been a run because I like talked that maybe they're undervalued at $1. Thanks a lot, Andrew. And so Andrew just sent out a super chat, and I appreciate it. But I always love his what is it called? Avatar icon. See, I'm like computer illiterate, but I always love it as the miss and no. If you guys were familiar with Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, when you do like the little cheat code, those would come up. Always loved it. Always thought about it every time I look at it. Do you think that Cosmic Eclipse and CHR will go up with the release of? Oh, sorry. Do you do you think Cosmic Eclipse and character cards will go up with the release of new character cards? Yeah, I think they will. I think Cosmic Eclipse is already pretty high. I talked about this earlier in the video too, but I think Pokemon is doing character cards right. I have heard some weird hot takes that, like Shining Fates is better than uh like these character cards, but I don't like Shinings personally, especially baby Shinings. Not big fans of them. Especially character cards are more fun. And I talked about it earlier. I would hope that they give us some real true character cards. I hope we get. I already talked about it. I know I'm just now talking in a big circle. Hope we get a character card of the OG fan favorite. Misty with Psyduck, Brock with Onyx, and a true Ash Ketchum card. An Ash with Pikachu, and we need a Lieutenant Surge with a Raichu. I know we got Lieutenant Surge with a Magnemite in Cosmic Eclipse, but we need it with a Raichu. You heard it here first. All right. So I heard the baby crying in the background. That's what I had to end the last video for, but my wife, I think, is taking care of them right now. The 2000 and 2010 Pikachu World Collection the binders, 9. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Those are great products. Extremely underrated for a while. Definitely a lot of people have caught on to those, and I know exactly what you're talking about now. They're awesome artwork. I think you said you feel a lot of people aren't talking about those, but people are talking about them. Mason with the super chat. Oh, all right. I wish you guys are awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah, Mason, I'm definitely gonna reach out to you. I think, I mean, I don't even need to say this. I got no delusions of grandeur. You guys are all subscribed to Cardinal Gaming, and I'll tell you what, Mason, when you put on your your professor, call it Professor Pikachu. Got Detective Pikachu, and you got the Professor Pikachu, and you put on your white lab coat, and you have some of the most entertaining videos like out there on YouTube. And as like a content creator or whatever you want to call like what this channel is, and kind of just talk about Pokemon. When you talk about it from the true content creator side and coming up with original thoughts and putting a real original spin on how you deliver information and doing it from a very strong perspective, which what you have, Mason, you have it from like the LGS standpoint. But I do believe you also have a very true love for not just Pokemon in general, but just like the entire like trading card game sphere. And there's you know more than anyone like how much there really is, and how much of my time gets spent on Pokemon, like for what you do with Magic. And I know you talk about like MetaZoo and Flesh and Blood and all the time you have to spend, and people can't really relate or put an equivocal price and like understand like the time you must put into like learning and doing all this stuff. It's pretty awesome. So big shout out to you. All right. Early EX eras and reverses are the GOAT card. E-readers are semi-close. Yeah. So guys, if you could get real true near mint reverse hollows for some of this early EX stuff, go for it. They're tough to find. I got a bunch of Skyridge near mint reverse hollows, and then I have a bunch that have like scratches on them. They're very prone to scratching on those reverse hollows surfaces. All right, it's pretty nutty how people used to do construction back in the day. Hey, Poke Knowledge, haha, nice photo. Oh yeah, Rockefeller Center. I don't know if that's you think that's OSHA approved? If they continue them, let's see. Loving the weekend late night streams, by the way, man. Thanks. Pokemon community is missing things like this right now. Yeah, have you guys felt that the Pokemon just content creating sphere has slowed down a little bit? I am curious what that is. Just need Mason to explain the numbers and we're good. Yeah. Mason, release one video a day for 1 year, please. Ooh, that would be a heck of a Pokemon challenge right there. Release 365 back-to-back-to-back videos. I would say I would take a Superman to do that. That's something that I am not prepared to do. Unless you're prepared to pay my yearly salary. All right, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch. I'm sure that everybody has a price. Okay, $10,000. I'll release a video every day. Smitty says, yeah, 10,000 or 100,000%. Yeah, Pokemon content creating sphere has slowed down. Let's see. Hey, Professor Oak, big shout out to you. I appreciate you always commenting on my videos. I always enjoy pretty much everybody in this chat, guys. I enjoy the reason why. Yeah, maybe I'm not staring at the camera and I'm reading the chat so much is because I really do, truthfully, like love the interaction with you guys. I love it when you guys comment on my videos and like give me your thoughts because I think for whatever entertainment value maybe you get out of this channel, like I get that entertainment value in return just reading your guys' comments and stuff. And Professor Oak, you always write some great comments. I always appreciate that. But man, CGC 9.5 is the way to go for PSA grading pilots. Yes, definitely huge opportunity in the future to crack some PSA 9.5 or sorry CGC 9.5s for PSA 10s. Not gonna lie, I haven't bought any Pokemon for about 2 months now. Yeah, I have bought some celebrations from a forget Pokemon investing, just from a Pokemon enjoyment factor. Opening up celebrations was fun. I never pulled the Umbreon. That was my chase card. Pulled. Never pulled one. I'm not crying. You're crying. No, I'm crying a little bit. I just want my Umbreon Gold Star. I never got it. And I refuse to buy it on the secondary market. But if it drops down to $30, maybe we'll be talking about it. But, all right. So listen, guys. I've been ranting now for an hour and 38 minutes. If you could do me one favor before I end this stream, you could just go down below, hit that like button. Helps me out a ton. I appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in. And this was fun. All right. But other than that, guys, I'll catch you on the next video.